This video is about Star Wars: The Old Republic's main story and what I liked and very much disliked. I only played until Knights of the Eternal Throne, so Onslaught won't be covered in this video. I also want to talk about the future of this game. Hey everyone! Thanks for clicking on this video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and a comment, and subscribe to my channel if you didn't already do that. The main thing I really appreciate about Star Wars: The Old Republic is the love and passion poured into the worlds of this game. There are so many details, Easter eggs and different other kind of things put into, which I absolutely love. At least on the beginning. NANI? I will talk about what I mean by that later in the video. First, I want to explain what things I liked and what details I actually mean. If you played the game from the beginning on, you might remember the holocrons you could find throughout the planets. Finding and interacting with them would give you small stat bonuses. I somewhat like that feature because it would incentive players to explore the world instead of rushing only the story through. Of course there were side quests, but the only really worth ones during that time were the planet story quests, so yeah. Story quests were tied to the planet only, so they haven't any kind of nod with the main story at all. These are pretty cool, yeah, as they show more about the planet, lore-wise and of course game-wise. They were also somewhat longer than the normal quests, basically as long as the main quest line on that planet. So there are only like 2 things that would make you explore the world. Of course there are achievements, but they were just a pat on the shoulder for something very tedious. Although there were lore objects to find, they are most of the time in the cities or places where NPCs were anyway. At one point, I think it was around 2014 or 2015, they removed the stats increase and I think they even removed the holocrons altogether. I'm not entirely sure if they got back, but when I started to play a new character just recently, I didn't find any on Korriban. Which sucks, because that means that I don't have much to do. Leveling never was a problem in the game, so if I just wanted to replay the main stories, I wouldn't need to do the planet stories at all. The stats increase would help somewhat, as it's still helpful when later in the game I got to gear cap. You still would be able to increase some stats for PvP or PvE. All over the world were different Easter eggs to find, and some of them are pretty cool, like the droid and the Wookiee on Nal Hutta, which I actually think will be those 2 later in the story, but I don't know if that was intended or not. Probably not. And I don't want to spoil who they were, so for those who didn't play the game, or at least not that story. There were also other impressions from the movies, some hinting to the Force Ghost on Tatooine, and of course the Sand People. The entire game was very rich on details, and it's always a bliss to play the early stages of a character. Besides Taris, I hate that planet, totally. It's cool, detailed, etc., but the mobs there are so annoying. I always hated those Rack ghouls. Creepy enemies with annoying poison stats. Similar to the Acklays, which are basically huge spiders. If you watch the movies, you know which one. What else did I love, like or find interesting? I would say that the stories of the different classes were pretty different. Even the story versus the Sage story, both were different, and playing both dark and light made it even more different. Boy! That was something I absolutely enjoyed to see. After introducing the Sakulan faction, I kind of hoped to see them as a playable thing as it would be totally possible. I would have made them start on Zakul as a knight, agent, scion or trooper. The differences between them and the other two factions is that those are a balance of the Force and technology. We know that the knights and the other Force users were neither dark or light dedicated. They used them both in a perfectly balanced way.
Look. Pretty, isn't it? Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
The knights could either be a New Horizon knight, which were Valen's knights, or an Eternal Throne knight, which were just Eternal Normal Throne knights, the ones with the gold or silver plates. The agents could be a similar type to the Imperial agent, but more of a smuggler or a mercenary. Going more in depth than this would be useless anyway, as it didn't happen and won't ever in the future. It would have been great, yes. I think it would be a way to introduce a more active and diverse open world PvP action. What about the things I wasn't quite happy about? Besides the money cap for free-to-play users? Well, the thing about the holocrons was one issue, yeah, but also the fact that with the years coming, the direction the game took was kind of constantly facing solo gameplay. Why would I want to play an MMO which basically is mostly a solo game? Besides the PvP stuff, if I could just play a single player game which has maybe even the option to use mods and other personification options. I mean, the name says it right there. Massive multiplayer online game. If 80% of the content is single player targeted and 30% of the multiplayer content isn't used by other players, you just won't have enough stuff to look forward to. The game is great, yeah. However, it's not an MMO anymore, at least not after Knights of the Fallen Empire and Knights of the Eternal Throne. Maybe Onslaught is better again, but I wouldn't know yet. And speaking of those two expansions, I am seriously disappointed about the end of the story. The first few chapters were very intriguing, fun, and lots of new stuff was going on. But the story progressed too fast and too much in that short amount of time. The time skip wasn't helpful neither. I wasn't keen on the choices as well, and in the end it was kind of pseudo juices. The NPCs would remember your actions, but even if you went the evil emperor route, it wouldn't really change much of the story. What else wasn't to my liking? I would say that the planets got smaller and smaller with every chapter. In the two expansions there are maybe like 3 planets which are open world and only 2 of them are able to do PvP, at least on them. Zakul is great, pretty big, and kind of reminds me of the old days of Star Wars The Old Republic with Coruscant and Nar Shaddaa. Iokav was interesting as it represented something new, something I only knew from other games like Destiny 2. The world is basically one huge machine, and it has a nice story to it. But that's really it. The PvP is non-existent, because the enemies nor missions are really interesting. There isn't much to explore, and even though the planet in the lore is pretty massive, the map in-game is tiny in comparison. The lore behind all those worlds, NPCs and other things are massive, vast, but in the end the incredible potential they held wasn't used properly. It was a huge letdown. I am not entirely unhappy about those expansions, I just hoped for more, especially from a company like BioWare. But in the end, it's just another cow that needed to get milked. At least by EA. Electronic Arts just can't let the game flourish. That's why they will never move beyond the hatred and criticism they receive. I kind of want to wrap the video up, as I think I will just spiral down into a big rant about huge companies destroying great franchises and the endless discussion about why most bigger studios get more trashy every year.
Fucking brat.
I love Star Wars. There aren't many universes that I love as much as that one. I want to see it getting big again, not only as a shooter or a single player game. If I had the chance to change something, I would do it by either remaking the game or developing an entirely new one, all with new technology. I could imagine the game having the freedom of games like Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, Black Desert, Fallout, and what I heard about the upcoming Cyberpunk game. It would have probably the biggest lore ever and so much potential gameplay. They don't need to restrict themselves to the canon world, but could use all the legend stories as well. Everything they developed until now is a possible way of creating a new Star Wars multiplayer game. Maybe not even restricted to timelines. The game had the potential of being one of the biggest games ever, but in the end it didn't use that to the fullest. It's sad to see its future end at one point in the future, but hopefully it won't be the end of the Star Wars lore in a playable form, and hopefully the community will still get a place to come together, have fun, and meet even new people over time. If you watched this video until now, I want to thank you so much for giving me your time and your attention. It's a really nice gesture and I absolutely appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, it would be so cool of you if you dropped a like. And any input or thought is welcome, just hit me up in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any future videos. I have different social media platforms I'm somewhat actively involved in, and maybe I will stream again this or next week. Just look through the links in the description and find what you're looking for. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!
Lana.
Don't worry, Commander. You're safe.
I found the super weapon. It was a giant droid.
I know. You've been talking in your sleep.
Your dreams are almost as bad as mine.